The promise and the star's hook and suspense the twin suns of Rolo 7 were setting, painting the alien sky in shades of gold and red. Jack Turner, a human engineer, wiped the sweat from his forehead as he packed his tools. He had spent the whole day fixing a broken power generator in the alien village of Terra. The work was hard, the pay was small. But Jack liked the peace here. The Terrans were a strange but kind people, tall, with skin that shimmered faintly in the light. Their big, dark eyes always seemed to be looking deeper than the surface. They spoke softly, moved gracefully, and valued promises more than gold. One of them was Lyra, a little alien girl, no older than 10 in human years. She followed Jack everywhere whenever he visited the village. She was full of questions about Earth, about space travel, about why humans always wore shoes. Jack laughed often at her curiosity. She laughed at his clumsy attempts to speak her language. That evening, after fixing the generator, Jack sat on a low stone wall while the villagers celebrated. Children ran around, music played on strange crystal instruments, and the air smelled of sweet fruit. Lyra sat next to him, swinging her legs. Her eyes sparkled in the fading light. "You fix everything," she said proudly. Jack grinned. "Everything. Some things can't be fixed." She tilted her head. "Like what?" He thought for a moment. "A broken heart." Lyra frowned, not understanding. Jack chuckled and patted her head. Then, without thinking, he said the words that would follow him for years. "When you grow up, Lyra, I'll marry you." It was meant as a joke. It's a simple, silly thing to make her laugh. And she did laugh. Her high musical voice mixing with the evening breeze. But the elders nearby turned their heads. Their long, slow blinks carried some meaning Jack didn't catch. They smiled, but their smiles were knowing. The night went on. Jack danced, ate, and told stories about the stars. He spoke of Earth's cities that touched the clouds, oceans bigger than Terra's deserts, and space stations where 1,000 species lived side by side. Lyra listened to every word like each was a secret. When it was time to leave, Jack climbed into his small shuttle. Lyra stood with the other villagers, waving goodbye. "Don't forget your promise," she called out in her soft but clear voice. Jack laughed, waved, and the shuttle's engines roared to life. He didn't know it would be years before he saw this place again. Time moved fast for Jack. He took jobs across the galaxy repairing colony ships, building defense systems, even working on mining stations orbiting black holes. He made friends, enemies, and mistakes. Terra became a distant memory, like an old dream fading in the morning light. One day, news reached him. Trade routes to Rolo 7 had closed. Pirate attacks, political fights, and something about a shadow empire expanding. Jack didn't think much of it. There were always new conflicts somewhere in space. It was 12 years later when it happened. Jack was docked at a lonely fuel station near the edge of human territory. The night outside was quiet, only the hum of the station's power systems. He was drinking a bitter cup of synth coffee in his ship when the knock came. Not a beep from the CUM system, not an alert. A knock on the metal airlock door. Jack frowned. Nobody knocked in space. He opened the door cautiously. Standing there was a tall figure in a dark travel cloak. A faint shimmer of silver skin caught the dim light. She lowered her hood. It was Lyra. But she was not the small, laughing child he remembered. Her face was older, sharper, and her black eyes were steady and intense. She wore armor light but strong-looking, and a long blade rested at her hip. Her presence filled the air like a storm about to break. "Jack Turner," she said softly. Her voice was deeper now, but it still had that musical edge. "You promised." For a moment, Jack couldn't speak. Memories of the village, the sunset, and a child's laughter rushed back all at once. He finally managed to laugh, but it sounded nervous. "Lyra." It's been a long time. You've grown. I have, she said. Her eyes didn't leave his. And I've been searching for you for 12 years. Jack stepped back. 12 years, searching for me. Why? She took one step forward, the door closing behind her. Because, Jack Turner. They're coming, and you are the only one who can help me. He opened his mouth to ask who they were, but then he saw it. Through the small porthole of his ship, far out in the dark, 3 faint lights were moving, not stars, ships, and they were coming closer. Jack's pulse quickened. Who's after you? Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. The ones who burned my world. Outside, the lights grew brighter. The hum of the engines from those unknown ships was now faintly audible. And somewhere deep inside, Jack knew. This was no joke anymore. The promise he made all those years ago was about to pull him into something far bigger than he could imagine. The girl who weighted the air inside Jack's ship felt different now, heavier, as if Lyra had brought the weight of a whole world with her. She stood in the narrow corridor, drops of melted frost still sliding from her cloak. Her black eyes moved slowly, scanning every panel, every shadow. Like she expected danger to step out from them. Jack kept his hand near the control panel by instinct. He didn't know if she was friend or trouble, or maybe both. Lyra, he said carefully, you look different. Her gaze softened for a moment. I had to change. The galaxy isn't safe anymore. Before Jack could answer, the ship shook just a small vibration, but enough to tell him the 3 lights outside were getting close. He moved to the cockpit, fingers dancing over controls. Lyra followed without a sound, standing just behind. His chair? Who are they? He asked. Eyes on the scanners. Her voice was low, almost a growl. They are hunters. They work for the Shadow Empire. They burn planets. They take people, and they never leave witnesses. Jack gave a short, sharp laugh that wasn't humor. And you brought them to me. You've changed, Lyra, but you haven't learned subtlety. I didn't bring them, she said firmly. They followed me here. I came to find you before they did. The scanner beeped. The 3 ships had spread out like a net. Jack cursed under his breath. They'll block the jump route in 2 minutes. If you have something to say, you'd better make it fast. Lyra didn't speak at first. She walked to the co-pilot seat and sat down, pulling off her gloves. Jack noticed the scars on her fingers' thin lines, burn marks, and one finger with a faint silver replacement joint. Whatever she had been doing all these years, it wasn't easy. Finally, she spoke. 12 years ago, when you left Terra, I was taken from the village, not by the Empire, but by my own people. Jack turned his head sharply. Your own people? They trained me, she continued, for one mission, to find you, to bring you to the place only you can open. Jack frowned. I'm a mechanic, Lyra, not some mythical hero. Her lips curved into a faint smile. Not a hero. A key. The proximity alarm blared. Jack's hands flew over the controls, engines roaring to life. The small ship shuddered as it lifted from the docking clamps. Outside, the 3 hunters closed in, their long black holes cutting. Through the void, Lyra's voice was calm now, almost too calm. If they catch us, they will take you apart to learn what you know. They will not be gentle. Jack grinned without looking at her. That's the nicest thing anyone's said to me this week. With a sharp pull on the control stick, he threw the ship into a hard roll, slipping between the hunter ships before they could lock weapons. Laser fire lit up the darkness, red streaks crossing past the cockpit as the ship twisted and darted. Lyra watched Jack with the same wide-eyed focus she once had as a child, watching him fix the village generator. But now there was something else in her eyes, not admiration, not even trust. It was something deeper and heavier, when they finally broke past the hunter ship's net. Jack set the coordinates for deep space and slammed the jump lever. The stars stretched into long white lines before snapping into the black silence of hyperspace. Only then did Jack breathe out. He turned to Lyra. "All right. We've got a few hours before they find us again. Now you're going to tell me exactly what this is about." Lyra leaned forward, her voice almost a whisper. "My people are dying, Jack. The Empire is destroying us. There is only one thing that can stop them. It's hidden on a world long forgotten, and the door to that world will only open to you." Jack stared at her, the hum of hyperspace filling the silence. "I'm starting to think," he said slowly, "that the joke I made 12 years ago was the worst idea of my life." Lyra's lips curved into that faint, unreadable smile again. "Or the best," she said, "because, Jack Turner, the promise you made wasn't just words. It was the key to everything." The hidden threat, the hum of hyperspace, was steady, like a heartbeat inside the metal bones of the ship. Jack sat in the pilot's chair, one boot up on the console, staring at the streaking stars. He didn't trust Easy, and he trusted Lyra even less now. Across from him, Lyra sat perfectly still, her hands resting on her knees. Her black eyes didn't wander. They locked on him like she was waiting for a signal or a confession. Finally, Jack broke the silence. "Let me get this straight. You crossed half the galaxy, dragged the Empire's hunters right to my doorstep, because I can open some mystery door on some mystery planet." "Yes," she said without hesitation. Jack laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Why me? There are billions of humans. I'm nothing special." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "Not special. Chosen." The word made Jack's skin crawl. "Chosen by who?" "Your people." She shook her head slowly. "By the builders, the ones who shaped my world long before humans learned to light a fire." Jack frowned. "I've heard of them ghost stories from deep space traders. Old alien race vanished ages ago. Supposedly left behind all kinds of dangerous toys." "They are not toys," Lyra said sharply. "They are power. Power the Empire cannot be allowed to have." Jack leaned forward. "So what's on this world?" "A weapon," she said simply. "One the builders locked away. It can burn an entire fleet to ash in seconds or make a dead sun burn again. My people call it the Starforger." Jack felt a cold twist in his stomach. "All right, I'll play along. Why can't you open this thing?" Lyra's gaze didn't waver. "Because the builders made the lock human." Jack blinked. "Human? That doesn't make any sense." "Not to you," she said. "But the old stories say the builders saw humans as unfinished. They thought your kind could grow in ways others could not. So they left the key in your blood, in your mind." Jack leaned back, rubbing his temples. "And you're saying I'm one of the only people in the galaxy who can do this?" Lyra nodded. "Not one of the only. The only." Before Jack could respond, the ship's proximity alarm chirped soft, almost shy. Too soft for a real threat. But Lyra was already moving, scanning the readings. Her voice turned sharp. "They've found us." Jack swiveled in his chair. "No way. We're still in hyperspace. They can slipstream." She interrupted. "Lee hunters can track a jump like this." Jack cursed. "Then we've got maybe 5 minutes before they tear us apart." Lyra's hand went to the blade at her side, not because it would help against starship cannons, but because it made her feel ready. "They will not destroy the ship," she said quietly. "They need you alive." Jack glanced at her. "That's not as comforting as you think." The hull trembled a ripple through the ship like a giant brushing past it in the dark. Jack's stomach knotted. He'd been chased before, but never by something that could touch him in hyperspace. "Tell me something, Lyra," he said, punching in evasive course shifts. You've had 12 years to find me. Why now? Why is this suddenly urgent? She didn't look away from the scanner, because the Empire already knows where the Starforger is. And they have found the second key. Jack's hands froze on the controls. Second key. Lyra finally met his eyes. Yes, Jack Turner. You are not the only one who can open the door, but you are the only one who will choose the right side. The ship gave another violent shudder. On the scanner, a shadow stretched across the hyperspace trail. A ship so massive it blotted out the star lines behind them. The hunters had arrived. Jack's jaw tightened. Looks like your prophecy's about to end early. Lyra's hand tightened on the back of his chair. Not if we reach the Forgotten World first? Jack glanced sideways at her, scanning the determination in her eyes. Then you'd better tell me where it is, Princess, 'cause I'm guessing this isn't the kind of trip you can book on the galactic map. Lyra leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. You've been there before, Jack? You just don't remember. Escape through the stars, the shadow in hyperspace was growing. It wasn't just a ship, it was a moving wall of black steel. Its edges lined with a faint red glow, like the coals of a dying fire. Jack's stomach tightened. That's not a hunter's ship, he muttered. Lyra's voice was steady. No, that's their carrier. It has dozens of hunters inside. Jack gripped the controls. Great. They brought the whole family. The first impact shook the ship like a giant hand had grabbed it. The lights flickered, and the hum of hyperspace faltered for a heartbeat. A cold ripple crawled across Jack's skin. That wasn't weapons fire, that was a tractor beam. They're pulling us out of the jump. Jack shouted. Break it, Lyra barked, moving to the auxiliary controls. Her fingers danced over glowing panels, overriding safety locks. Jack slammed the ship into a spin. Metal groaned as the hull twisted against the beam's pull. Warning sirens screamed. The stars outside began to slow, then exploded back into points of light as they were yanked out of hyperspace. The black void of real space hit them like a slap. The carrier loomed ahead, a dark shape big enough to swallow a city. Dozens of hunter craft poured from its bays, sleek, black, and fast. Their engines burning like angry eyes. They'll surround us in 60 seconds, Jack said through clenched teeth. Lyra strapped herself in, eyes sharp, and make those 60 seconds count. Jack punched the engines to full burn. The ship roared forward, skimming dangerously close to the carrier's surface. Hunter ships swarmed behind them like a flock of metal predators. Laser fire lit up the darkness-red lines, slicing past the cockpit. Jack twisted the controls. The ship rolling between two of the hunters so close their wings almost scraped the hull. He yanked the throttle back, letting them overshoot, then slammed it forward again, blasting toward open space. But the hunters adapted fast. 3 of them split off, arcing around to cut them off ahead. Jack's eyes narrowed. All right. Let's see if I remember this trick. He dove the ship toward a drifting asteroid field, a chaotic swarm of spinning rock and ice, lit faintly by a distant star. Lyra's voice was sharp. That's suicide. Jack grinned. Only if you don't know the dance. The ship plunged into the field, weaving between tumbling boulders. Hunters followed, but the rocks forced them into single file. Jack spun the ship sideways, letting an asteroid's gravity slingshot them forward. One hunter clipped a rock and exploded in a burst of fire. In the chaos, Lyra's hand shot out, pointing ahead. There. That fissure. Jack saw it, a narrow crack in one of the largest asteroids, just wide enough for their ship. Without hesitation, he aimed straight for it. The hunters hesitated, unwilling to follow. They shot through the crack, the darkness swallowing them before bursting into a hollow space inside the asteroid. a secret cavern lit by strange blue crystals growing from the walls. Jack slowed the ship to a hover. The cavern was silent except for the faint hum of the crystals. Lyra unbuckled, standing beside him. Her voice was calm again. "You flew like someone who's been here before." Jack frowned. "Never seen this place in my life." She looked at him for a long moment. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. "Because these crystals, they grow only near the gates of the builders." The forgotten world, the asteroid's blue crystals glowed softly, casting shifting light across the walls of the cavern. Jack stared at them, feeling something strange, like a memory he couldn't quite catch, slipping just out of reach. Lyra stood close, her hand brushing one of the crystals. It pulsed faintly under her touch, as if it knew she was there. "These are builder markers," she said quietly. "They grow only on worlds they wanted to remember or hide." Jack frowned. "And this one's hidden in the middle of an asteroid belt." "Not hidden," Lyra corrected. "Protected." From the co-pilot seat, she activated a small sphere. From her belt, it floated into the air, projecting a map in flickering blue light. In the center, a planet shimmered dark, with 3 rings wrapped around it like chains. "That's it," she said. "The forgotten world. We call it Vera. No one has set foot there in centuries." Jack studied the map. "Looks like a bad neighborhood?" "It's worse than that," Lyra replied. "It's alive." Before Jack could ask what she meant, the crystals around them began to hum. Low at first, then rising, like a chorus of voices too deep to be human. The map sphere flickered and steadied, now showing their ship moving toward the planet on its own. Jack's hands flew to the controls. "What the hell?" Lyra's hand stopped him. "Don't fight it. The builders are guiding us." Jack shot her a glare. "Guiding us or dragging us?" The cavern opened ahead, revealing a tunnel leading out into space. The ship drifted forward, not by thrusters, but as if pulled by invisible strings. Once outside, the stars bent and warped, and then the planet appeared. It hung in the void like a shadow given shape. Its surface was covered in storms, flashes of strange colors sparking inside the clouds. The 3 massive rings glowed faintly, each marked with lines that seemed too perfect to be natural. Jack felt that strange pull in his chest again, the almost memory, sharp now, like déjà vu. The ship entered the upper atmosphere. Lightning crawled through the clouds, and for a moment, Jack swore he heard voices in the static. Whispers, words he didn't understand, but which somehow felt like they were meant for him. They broke through the storm, and below lay a vast city of black stone, half buried under centuries of dust. Towers leaned like tired giants, and between them were giant metal gates that shimmered faintly in the rain. Lyra's eyes lit with something between awe and fear. "That's it," she whispered. "The vault." Jack set the ship down on a wide platform near the gates. The moment they stepped outside, the air felt thick, heavy, charged like the moment before a thunderclap. Lyra moved toward the gates, but as Jack followed, the ground under his boots seemed to pulse. The stone was warm, almost alive. He froze. A flicker of light danced across the surface, and in that split second, he saw it, himself, standing before these gates. But younger. And Lyra was there too, not as a child, but exactly as she was now. The vision vanished. Jack stood still, his heart pounding. He wanted to dismiss it as a trick of the light, but the truth was gnawing at him. "Lyra," he said slowly, "have we been here before?" She didn't look at him. Instead, she placed her palm on the gate, and the metal began to shift and open, revealing darkness beyond. "Yes," she said finally, her voice barely above the rain. "But last time, you didn't survive. Promise or betrayal, the vault opened with a deep, grinding sound, stone and metal folding back like the mouth of some ancient beast. A rush of cold air spilled out, tasting of rust, old storms, and something older than time. Jack followed Lyra through the threshold, his hand resting on the blaster at his hip, not drawn, not ready, just cautious. The inside was massive. Walls curved upward into blackness, and strange blue lights floated without any wires or fire. Symbols glowed softly across the floor, shifting like sand even though no one touched them. "Don't step on the wrong ones," Lyra said, without. Turning around, some are tests, others are traps. Jack chuckled nervously. "Fantastic. I love puzzles that kill people." They moved deeper into the vault. Ahead, a great platform stood in the center of a circular chamber. And on it sat the Star Forgor, what looked like a machine fused with bone and crystal. It pulsed with light, as if it were breathing. Waiting, Jack took a step forward, but the moment his boot hit the edge of the platform, the room screamed. The lights turned red. The walls closed like jaws. From the shadows, dark figures appeared, metallic, fast and silent. Not alive, not machines. Something. In between, vault sentinels. Lyra drew her blade and leaped forward, slicing through one of them in a flash. Jack fired twice, sparks flying as another dropped, but for every one that fell, 2 more came. "They're not supposed to activate yet." Lyra shouted, "They think you're not ready." Jack gritted his teeth, then convinced them. Suddenly, one of the sentinels grabbed Jack's arm, its fingers wrapped tight, and, in that moment, something strange happened. A vision hit him like lightning. He was younger, in this same vault, standing beside Lyra, but she looked afraid. She was shouting something. There was a countdown, a machine breaking, and then Jack dying. But not from the Empire. By Lyra's hand. Jack yanked free, heart pounding. He fired again, but his hand was shaking now. Behind him, Lyra stabbed the last sentinel through its chest. The room fell silent. The red lights faded. The vault calmed. Jack turned to face her. His voice was low and sharp. "Tell me the truth. Have I been here before?" Lyra stood still. Then slowly, she nodded. Double quotes, "Yes, you died here. You mind. Was rebuilt by the builders. I watched it happen." Jack stepped back, feeling the platform under him like a ledge. "Why? Why would they wipe my memories?" Lyra's face was unreadable. "Because you failed them. You tried to destroy the Star Forgor, not use it. They believed you could still be the key, but only if you forgot who you were." Jack felt sick. So this was never about the promise. This was all a setup. "No," Lyra said quickly. "You promised. Not just to me, but to my people. And when you broke that promise, millions died." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. "I waited for you. I believed you could still choose the right path." He stared at her for a long time. "So this is it, huh? You brought me here hoping I'd be different." "Better." Lyra nodded once. "The Empire will be here soon. If we don't use the Star Forgor, everything dies." "And if I use it?" Jack asked. Lyra's voice lowered. "You might lose yourself again." A deep rumble shook the vault. Above them, the sky cracked open. The Empire's fleet had arrived. Outside, the storm of war was building. Inside, Jack stood before a weapon that could end it all, but at the cost of becoming something, or someone else. He looked at Lyra. At her blade, at the faint scar on her cheek that he remembered giving her in a fight he couldn't recall. And finally, he asked the one question that scared him most. "Did I love you? Before I forgot." Lyra closed her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "And you promised you'd never leave me behind." The last vault shook as the Empire's fleet broke through the clouds above. The sound was like 1,000 storms tearing the sky apart. Dust fell from the ceiling in soft clouds, glowing faintly in the red light of the alarm's dot. Jack stood before the Starforger, its breathing light now, quick and fast, as if it could feel the danger closing in. Lyra stepped beside him, her blade still in hand. Her black eyes locked on his. "This is it, Jack. Choose now." Jack's voice was tight. "You still haven't told me what it does to the person who uses it." Her answer came without pause. "It remakes them. Completely. Mind, body, soul." The builders believed the weapon needed a human heart, but not a human weakness. Jack smirked bitterly. "Guess I'm their test subject." The ground trembled, a deep growing vibration as the vault's gates began to glow from incoming fire. Somewhere far above, the Empire's flagship was lowering into the atmosphere, its massive shadow blotting out the sun. Lyra's hand brushed his arm. "If you use it, Jack, you may not remember me again." He looked at her for a long moment. Her face was calm, but her voice trembled in that last sentence. "Then tell me something I'll remember," he said softly. She hesitated, then stepped closer, pressing her forehead to his. "You came back for me once," she whispered. "Two? It again in whatever life comes next." The gates burst inward. Empire soldiers poured in black armor, glowing visors, weapons raised. Behind them, a towering figure stepped forward, the Hunter Commander. Its voice cold and metallic. "Step away from the device. Human." Jack didn't move. He placed both hands on the Starforger. The surface was warm to warm, and the moment his fingers touched it, light exploded outward, wrapping around his arms like liquid fire. Pain lanced through him, but it was more than pain. It was remembering. Images, voices, entire years crashed into him all at once. The first time he came to Vera. The choice to destroy the Starforger. Lyra's blade at his throat as she begged him not to. His last breath, and her scream. The weapon's light swallowed. The chamber. Empire soldiers stumbled back, blinded. Lyra shielded her eyes, watching as Jack's outline blurred in the blaze. His voice cut through the roar, stronger than she had ever heard it. "I remember everything. And I remember why I made that promise." The light surged, and from the heart of the Starforger, a wave of pure energy erupted, racing outward faster than thought. Above, the Empire's fleet was caught in the blast. Ships cracked apart like glass struck by a hammer. Engines went dark. In seconds, the sky was clear. The threat was gone. Inside the vault, the light faded. The Starforger stood silent, and Jack was gone. Lyra stepped forward, her hands trembling as they touched the place where he had stood. The surface was still warm. For a moment, she thought it was over, that she had lost him again. Then she heard it. A soft voice behind her. "I told you I'd come back." She turned. Jack was there, but different. His eyes glowed faintly, with the same light as the Starforger. His face was the same, but there was something older in his gaze, something not entirely human anymore. "You're changed," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Maybe, but I kept my promise." They stood in the silence of the empty vault, the air still heavy with the echoes of what had just happened. Outside, the galaxy thought it had been saved. But deep in the shadows of space, other eyes were already watching. Lyra's voice broke the quiet. "What now?" Jack glanced at the Starforger, then at the horizon where the stars were beginning to shine again. "Now," he said, "now we prepare. Because this wasn't the last war. It was just the first." Us. The screen fades to black, and in the dark, a faint heartbeat of light pulses. From somewhere far, far away.